Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The message arrived at 1432 Greenwich Mean Time on a Tuesday that history would never forget. Admiral Sarah Chen was on her third cup of bitter recycled coffee when every screen in the Luna Command Center ignited at once. Not with data, not with telemetry, with alarms, raw, shrieking alerts that tore through the room like screaming metal. "Admiral!" Lieutenant Rodriguez shouted, his voice cracked despite years of discipline. "We're receiving a transmission on the Deep Space Quantum Channel. He hesitated. "It's not human." Sarah's hand stopped mid-motion. The ceramic mug trembled slightly before she set it down with deliberate care. In 23 years of service, through proxy wars, orbital standoffs, and the uneasy expansion into the outer system, she had never once heard those words spoken aloud. Not human. The quantum relay network was humanity's crown jewel. Entangled relays stretched across light years, allowing instant communication between Earth, Mars, the Belt, and beyond. It was theoretical physics made operational. It was the nervous system of a species that had finally escaped the gravity well of its birthplace, and only humans were supposed to know how to use it. "Put it on the main screen," she ordered. The holographic projector flared to life. The image that formed above the command floor made half the room step backward in silent shock. The being was tall and unnaturally thin. Its skin rippled between silver and deep blue, like liquid metal under moonlight. Its eyes were vast, featureless black voids that reflected no light at all. No pupils, no whites, just darkness. When it spoke, the sound emerged through flawless universal translation software, technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. "To the dominant species of the third planet from the star you call Sol," the alien said. Its voice was calm, perfectly modulated, older than fear. "I am High Arbiter Zephi of the Hegemony Council." Silence crushed the command center. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. "This message will be delivered only once," Zephi continued. "Your species has reached the threshold of relevance. You will now be integrated into the hegemony." The image shifted. The hologram expanded outward, showing vast fleets of living ships drifting through space, bioorganic constructs the size of cities. Their hulls pulsed with internal light like the slow heartbeat of some cosmic predator. "This is not a negotiation," Zephi said. "This is not a proposal. This is a statement of fact." The display changed again. A planet burned, not exploded, not shattered. Burned from the inside out as continents melted and the oceans boiled away. Another world followed, its surface crystallizing into flawless glass. Cities froze mid-evacuation beneath transparent stone. Millions entombed in perfect stillness. 3,417 species have received this same message, Zephi said. All but 12 chose integration. The rest chose extinction. Sarah's hands clenched into fists so tight her knuckles whitened. "You will dismantle all military forces," the alien continued. "You will surrender all independent quantum research. You will accept classification as a client species under hegemony protection." Client species. The words tasted like poison in her mind. "You have 72 of your hours to transmit complete surrender on this same frequency. Failure to comply will be interpreted as an act of hostility." The final image was the worst. A world once blue and green, like Earth, now a flawless sphere of crystal. Continents visible beneath the transparent surface, like a frozen corpse under glass. "The Vexhi believed their crystalline technology made them superior," Zephi said without the slightest trace of emotion. "They were incorrect. Do not repeat their mistake." Coordinates appeared. The alien fleet was already moving. 72 hours. The transmission ended. For exactly 10 seconds, no one in Luna Command moved. Then every channel lit up at once. Earth Command, the United Nations, Mars High Council, Belt Consortium, Orbital Defense, Colonial Governors. Panic tried to claw its way through disciplined voices. Sarah raised one hand. The room fell silent again. Her thoughts moved faster than any machine in the room. First contact, confirmed hostile, unconditional surrender, demonstrated planet-killing capability, no technological parity, no room for negotiation. She had trained for this scenario since she was 22 years old. She had never believed it would actually happen. "Lieutenant," she said calmly, "send priority alpha to all commands." Rodriguez swallowed. "All commands, ma'am?" "All of them," she confirmed. "Implement blackout protocol immediately. Full execution within 1 hour." The words sucked the air from the room. "Ma'am, blackout means—" "I know exactly what it means," Sarah said. She turned to her personal terminal and entered a code she had memorized 15 years ago. A code she had prayed would never be used. The message went out across the human sphere in less than a second. "The day we prepared for has come. Execute blackout protocol. Show them nothing. Trust the plan. Humanity endures." Across the solar system, the lights went out. On Earth, military bases disappeared from every external sensor. Communication satellites fell silent. Space elevators powered down, their towering cables vanishing into darkness. In low orbit, patrol fleets cut engines and drifted like dead metal. On Mars, beacon cities faded one by one until the red planet returned to natural night. In the belt, mining vessels powered down their reactors and became indistinguishable from unremarkable rock. To any outside observer, it looked like civilization collapsing. Inside Luna Command, Sarah allowed herself one slow breath. They would think humanity was breaking. That was the point. 70 million kilometers away, aboard the Hegemony scout vessel Inevitable Truth, Captain Thiexmal watched Earth through quantum-layered sensors and felt satisfaction ripple through his gill slits. "Report," he commanded. "The electromagnetic output of the third planet has dropped by 78%, his young sensor officer replied. "Communication networks are fragmenting. We detect mass evacuation behavior." The Exmal's tentacles curled in amusement. "Standard pattern, fear first, collapse second." "Any military coordination?" he asked. "Negative. Orbital platforms have gone dark. Multiple vessels are fleeing toward the outer system, but their movement is chaotic." The captain viewed the silent blue world beneath them. "They always run." Through the viewport, the first elements of the Hegemony fleet emerged at the edge of the Sol system. 12 massive bioships, grown rather than built, their living hulls glowing with restrained planetary death. "The deadline will finish them," the Exmal said. "They will kneel." Back on Earth, the world was not kneeling. It was holding its breath. In underground bunkers, children were pulled from schools and pressed into shelters. Civilian networks were flooded with half-truths and emergency broadcasts. Stock markets froze. Faith leaders prayed. Scientists calculated impossible odds. Soldiers embraced their families in silence. In a forgotten listening post near Neptune, a young communications officer named Evelyn Park stared at the empty stars as she manually aligned a passive sensor array. "Do you think they'll really do it?" she whispered. Her commanding officer did not answer. He simply turned his gaze toward the darkness, where alien ships now moved with unstoppable certainty. On Luna, Sarah Chen watched Earth hang in space like a fragile jewel. 72 hours until judgment. She opened a secure channel. "Dr. Okafor," she said quietly. The face that appeared was tired, focused, unafraid. "They took the bait," he said. "All foundries are standing by. The ghost fleets remain undetected." "Good," Sarah replied. "If this is our end—" "It won't be," Okafor interrupted. "They think this is surrender theater. It's not." Sarah allowed herself a thin, cold smile. Outside, the alien armada continued its slow, arrogant advance. They believed humanity was learning how to kneel. They had no idea humanity was deciding how to strike. "If you approve this tone and density, I will immediately continue with—" To the Hegemony, the silence of the Sol system looked like surrender. To humanity, it was the sound of the trap closing. From the bridge of the Inevitable Truth, Captain Thiexmal observed the gradual dimming of Earth's electromagnetic signature with growing satisfaction. Entire bands of communication vanished. Long-range radar pulses stuttered and died. Civilian traffic scattered in erratic, desperate arcs toward the outer system. "Predictable," he said. The sensor officer shifted uneasily. "Captain, the pattern suggests total systemic failure. Their power grid is collapsing faster than expected." The X-Mall's tentacles flexed in amusement. "Fear accelerates collapse. That is universal." Behind him, the vast shadow of the approaching hegemony fleet crept deeper into the outer reaches of the Sol system. 12 bioships, each one a city of living weaponry, glided through the void with absolute confidence. Their shields shimmered faintly, biological layers folding and unfolding in patterns no human scientists could yet comprehend. "They will beg before the deadline," the X-Mall said. "They always do." He did not see the dead asteroids watching him. In the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Pluto's faint orbit, an object cataloged for 15 years as K 12,819 rotated in perfect silence. Officially, it was a naturally occurring ice-rock hybrid with unusual magnetic anomalies. A curiosity, a footnote in hundreds of minor research papers. Inside that asteroid, an entire shipyard woke from hibernation. Dr. James Okafor stood on a suspended platform above an ocean of machinery as power surged through the buried facility for the first time in 30 years. Massive fabrication arms unfolded from the rock walls, their surfaces glowing as dormant nanoforges ignited in sequence. Gravity generators hummed to life. Emergency lighting painted the cavern in red and gold, all systems transitioning from dormant to active, a calm synthetic voice reported. Power stability at 98%, structural integrity optimal. Okafor closed his eyes for one brief moment. Humanity had never placed its faith in surface defenses. Every major mining project in the outer system had been designed with hollow cores. Every research station had possessed redundant internal volumes that defied natural explanations. Every kilometer of tunnel, every mysterious power spike, every inexplicable budget overrun had been for this moment. The Black Armada had not been built in shipyards. It had been grown inside the bones of the solar system itself. "All foundries online," Okafor said softly. "Begin revelation phase." Across the Kuiper Belt, asteroids that had not moved in millennia began to shift. On Jupiter's moon, Callisto, Darwin Station officially existed to study radiation belts and subsurface ice oceans. Its published crew list included 12 scientists, all with unremarkable academic backgrounds. In reality, Darwin Station had been the testing ground for humanity's most illegal weapons for nearly a decade. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood inside the primary control ring as concealment panels melted away from the station's inner hull. What had appeared from the outside as a thin research module expanded outward like a mechanical flower, revealing layered armor, spinal-mounted mass drivers, and a particle beam emitter the length of a skyscraper. "Final calibration complete," she said. "Weapon cores at full charge." Okafor's voice came through on a quantum-encrypted channel. "Hold position. Maintain blackout conditions until global signal." "We've waited 8 years," Elena replied. "We can wait a few hours more." She turned her gaze outward, past Jupiter's swirling storms and into the dark gulf where alien ships now drifted in arrogant formation. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, what had once been the most profitable mining consortium in human history silently changed identity. The Hermes fleet, hundreds of ore haulers and refinery vessels, cut false hull plating loose in synchronized sequence. Beneath the industrial exteriors lay armored frames, missile silos disguised as mineral crushers, and kinetic cannon arrays hidden inside ore ejectors. Workers who had spent years pretending to be civilian contractors removed false identification patches and locked into combat harnesses. Captain Maria Volkov sealed her helmet and stepped onto the bridge of the Prospector's Dream, a vessel that no longer deserved its peaceful name. "Status," she said. "All weapons unlocked. her tactical officer replied. Stealth dampening disengaged, but visually inactive. We look dead to their scanners. Good, Maria said. Let them keep thinking that. Near Saturn, aboard the cargo vessel, Peaceful Journey, Commander Alex Petro drifted in zero gravity as concealed bulkheads retracted from the interior of the ship. For 3 years, the Peaceful Journey had hauled water, rations, and replacement parts between Earth and Mars. It had been scanned dozens of times by hegemony long-range reconnaissance, logged as non-threatening, ignored. Hidden beneath the cargo decks was enough firepower to erase a city. Lieutenant Kim Santos floated beside him, her fingers flying over holographic controls. All combat systems are live, she reported. Stealth integrity holding. Reactor output at combat threshold. Alex said nothing. He simply stared at the tactical projection of the Sol system, the invisible web of dormant human assets scattered across billions of kilometers of space, a web that was now tightening. Back on Luna, Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the heart of the quietest command center in human history. No open channels, no civilian feeds, no emergency broadcasts, only encrypted tactical updates pulsing across a holographic star map in near silence. Hidden shipyards, green. Asteroid foundries, green. Ghost fleets, green. Dr. Okafor's icon pulsed softly on the display. All installations are synchronized. We remain invisible to their active scans. Passive monitoring only. Sarah nodded. Let them believe the lie. They watched. They listened. They learned. Every energy spike from the hegemony bioships was cataloged. Every oscillation in shield frequency was recorded. Every maneuver, every formation shift, every power fluctuation was being dissected in real time by human strategic AIs. The enemy believed they were circling a dying world. In reality, they were being mapped for execution. 17 human mining vessels drifted lifelessly beyond the orbit of Neptune. For 6 months, their crews had remained in cryo-hibernation. Their power cores were reduced to biological minimums. Their hulls were coated in electromagnetic dampening layers that absorbed and scattered sensor emissions. To the hegemony, they were nothing more than derelicts. Inside those vessels, living soldiers dreamed of war. Captain Thiexmol studied the tactical display with mild interest. No surrender signal yet, he said. They will wait until the final hour. Pride delays capitulation. Captain, the sensor officer said hesitantly, there are irregular power fluctuations in the outer system. The Exmol did not even turn. Residual industrial decay, their infrastructure is collapsing under stress. As you say, Captain, the scout ship adjusted its position, drifting closer to the inner system alongside the first wave of bioships. The hegemony fleet began executing standard containment formation, interlocking gravitational fields, weapon arcs overlapping with mathematical perfection. It was a formation designed to intimidate. It was also completely predictable. Deep beneath the ice crust of Titan, a research station that had spent 9 years officially studying atmospheric methane pressure dropped all pretense. Launch shafts exploded open. 36 black fighters roared into vacuum in near-perfect synchronization. No running lights, no transmission beacons, no electronic signatures that could be interpreted by conventional alien sensors. Captain Maria Volkov watched their departure from the asteroid belt as a distant tactical blip. All squadrons in position, she reported quietly. They still think we're dead. In the Kuiper belt, the first of the hidden human battleships slid free from its stone cocoon. The rock shelf fractured and drifted outward as internal gravitic drives powered up. Beneath the debris, angular human hull plating caught distant starlight for the first time. It was not elegant. It was not beautiful. It was a predator's skeleton wrapped in steel. More followed. Dozens, hundreds. The Black Armada did not reveal itself. Not yet. Sarah Chen studied the time display at the center of the command floor, P-minus 41 hours. She opened a private channel to Dr. Okafor. How confident are you in their blindness? She asked. Okafor did not hesitate. They scanned for active warships, power signatures, navigation wakes. We built a civilization that can disappear. Sarah allowed herself a thin, dangerous smile. Good. Beyond the reinforced, transparent steel windows of Luna Command, Earth floated silently in perfect blue stillness. A jewel, a target, a baited hook. On the inevitable truth, Captain The Exmal reviewed his final containment models. By the time the deadline arrived, the human system would be completely surrounded. Shipping lanes controlled, escape vectors sealed, planetary destruction fields locked. The humans would kneel, or they would burn, he felt, no doubt. Not even the faintest shadow of it. In the deep shadow of a drifting asteroid beyond Pluto's orbit, Evelyn Park's forgotten listing post detected a whisper in the dark. Not a transmission, not a signal. A pattern, a heartbeat where no heartbeat should exist. Her breath caught in her throat. "They're all awake," she whispered, and far beyond any human sensor, in the cold arrogance of alien command, the hegemony remained blissfully unaware that the Sol system was no longer a solar system. It was a weapon. The final hour arrived in perfect silence. Across the Sol system, the hegemony fleet completed its encirclement with ritual precision. Bioships drifted into mathematically flawless formation, their living hulls pulsing with restrained annihilation. Energy rippled across planetary-scale weapons as they synchronized firing solutions aimed directly at Earth. On the bridge of the inevitable truth, Captain Theaksmall observed the tactical projection with absolute certainty. "No surrender signal," his sensor officer reported. The Exmal's tentacles flexed slowly. "Then they have chosen extinction." Across the fleet, authorization codes propagated through organic neural relays. Planet-glassing weapons primed, shield harmonics aligned. The destruction of Earth would be broadcast across nearby star systems as an object lesson. Another jewel crushed into crystal for daring to resist the inevitable. At exactly 14:32 GMT, 72 hours to the second since the ultimatum, the Exmal raised a single command limb. Begin. Space itself shattered. What the hegemony interpreted as inert asteroids ignited with blinding fury. Dozens of dead rocks erupted outward as concealed gravitic engines tore through layers of ancient stone. Human warships tore free from their rocky tombs like predators bursting from eggs. Angular hulls caught starlight for the first time in decades. Stealth fields collapsed. Weapons came online. In the asteroid belt, the prospector's dream shed its civilian shell in a storm of discarded plating. The harmless mining vessel vanished, replaced by the heavy cruiser Retribution, its mass drivers already charged. From the shadow of Jupiter, Darwin Station unfolded into a monstrous weapons platform, its particle beam emitter rotating into firing position with a low, seismic vibration transmitted through the vacuum by gravitational distortion alone. From behind Saturn's rings, a dozen research platforms revealed layered armor and missile arrays that had never existed in public records. Near Neptune, 17 drifting derelicts flared to life in unison. And from the heart of the system, the peaceful journey vanished. In its place, the stealth destroyer Shadowstrike emerged, weapon black, angular, unreal. Commander Alex Petro's voice cut across encrypted tactical space. "All Blackbird units," he said calmly, "execute Thunder Run. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth." The Black Armada moved. On the bridge of the inevitable truth, alarms that had never been triggered in 12 million years screamed into existence. "Captain," the sensor officer shrieked. "Massive energy signatures throughout the system. Unknown vessels emerging from asteroid structures, thousands of them." The Exmal spun toward the tactical display in disbelief. "That is impossible. Our scans showed no military presence." The display exploded with hostile contacts. Red filled the star map. "They were hiding inside the system itself," the officer whispered in horror. "Inside the asteroids." The first hegemony bioship died without ever firing a shot. The Living Harmony, one of the fleet's forward command vessels, was struck simultaneously from 6 directions by human mass drivers, firing depleted uranium projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The hegemony energy shields flared once and failed. The kinetic kill vehicles punched through the living hull like anti-god spears. Biological armor vaporized. Internal regeneration systems had no time to react. The ship came apart in a cascade of superheated organic debris that scattered across space like burning petals. The ex-Small stared at the feed in silent disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their weapons are primitive. Solid matter cannot breach hegemony shields." But humans had never trusted energy. They trusted momentum. At Darwin Station, Dr. Elena Vasquez watched through hardened observation glass as her life's work spoke for the first time. "Target locked," her weapons officer said. Elena did not blink. Fire. The particle beam erupted across millions of kilometers in a silent line of annihilation. It struck the bioship Gentle Current directly through its central neural core. The living vessel attempted to regenerate, organic tissue warping and flowing inward toward the damage. It was too slow. The beam burned straight through the ship's heart. The bioship folded in on itself and died. "Target eliminated," Elena reported, recharging. In the shadow of Neptune, Commander Alex Petro led the Blackbird Strike Group directly into the rear arc of the Hegemony Formation. The Shadow Strike and 17 sister vessels surged forward at impossible acceleration, weapons already discharging. Adaptive swarm missiles split into thousands of semi-autonomous kill units mid-flight, learning from each intercepted countermeasure in real time. Hegemony point defenses fired brilliantly. They adapted too slowly. Missiles wrapped around bioships in converging spirals of controlled detonation. Human kinetic cannons slammed into organic armor with surgical brutality. "They're hitting us from behind," a hegemony tactical officer screamed across open channels. "There is no behind anymore," another voice replied in terror. Captain Maria Volkov's fighter squadrons erupted from hidden Titan hangars in perfect silence. 30 black, angular craft moved with predator efficiency, too small for heavy alien weapons to track, too fast for standard interceptors. "Target the command ships," Maria ordered. "Cut the head off." Her fighters swarmed the inevitable truth like living shadows. Missiles slammed into shielding nodes with machine-perfect timing. Secondary charges detonated inside weapon apertures before organic armor could seal. Hull breaches tore open 7 levels of the flagship in under 30 seconds. On the bridge, the Exmal was thrown against his command throne as gravity fluctuated violently. "Damage control," he roared. "Hull breaches on 7 decks." His officer shouted. "Regeneration protocols cannot compensate. Their weapons adapt to our biology." The ex-Mall felt something alien twist inside his chest. Fear. Across the battlefield, hegemony bioships attempted to regroup. They failed. Human vessels did not fight defensively. They hunted. One wounded bioship turned toward the system's edge, attempting retreat. The heavy cruiser Vengeance pursued it relentlessly across 2 million kilometers of empty space. Every evasive maneuver was matched, every power spike countered. When the alien ship finally ran out of energy, it drifted helplessly. Human boarding craft cut into the living hull. Inside, soldiers did not offer mercy. They took prisoners. They took technology. They took secrets. Commander Sarah Kim's voice cut across Fleet Command. "Vengeance to Luna. Enemy vessel captured. Survivors secured. We're bringing their minds home with us." On Luna, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the impossible unfold with cold precision. "Tactical report," she commanded. 7 hegemony vessels destroyed, Rodriguez replied. 3 captured, 2 fleeing. "Our losses? Minimal." For the first time since the ultimatum, Sarah allowed herself a slow breath. The hegemony had expected frightened prey. They had found a kill zone. Within the collapsing remains of the bioship Gentle Current, Commander Alex Petro floated among alien wreckage as human technicians swarmed across glowing, organic machinery. Dr. Lisa Chen, xenotechnology specialist, examined the pulsing remains of an alien control interface. "Their systems are alive," she murmured. "Self-healing, adaptive. Can we learn it?" Alex asked. She looked up slowly. We already are. On the hegemony command frequencies, panic fractured centuries of certainty. They're not defending. They're pursuing us. Our shields are ineffective. This is not a rebellion. It's a hunt. Captain Theaksmall watched his fleet collapse. One bio ship after another vanished from his tactical display, replaced by expanding debris clouds and silence. Human vessels did not withdraw. They did not regroup. They advanced, relentlessly. They were supposed to kneel, he whispered. Outside the bridge viewport, the Sol system burned, not with the fire of conquest, but with the wrath of something that had waited its entire history for this moment. In the darkness beyond Pluto, Evelyn Park watched the sky turn violent with distant flashes of annihilation. They did it, she breathed. They were never dark. They were just hiding. On Luna, the Black Armada finished revealing itself. Hundreds of human warships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and platforms that had never existed in public space now surrounded the shattered remnants of the hegemony fleet. Dr. Okafor's voice came through to Sarah Chen. The weapon has fully awakened. Sarah's eyes reflected a star map now glowing with human dominance. No, she said quietly. The Predator has. The first stage of the war ended in less than 2 hours. The hegemony had come to Earth to receive a surrender. Instead, they had discovered something that did not kneel, something that hunted. And for the first time in 12 million years, the galaxy's oldest empire had learned the meaning of terror. The battle did not end when the hegemony formation broke. That was when the hunting began. Across the Sol system, wounded bioships fled in blind arcs toward the darkness beyond the heliopause. Their organic hulls convulsed as regeneration systems struggled to seal wounds torn open by kinetic devastation. Living vessels that had conquered thousands of worlds now bled glowing tissue into the void. Human ships followed, not as defenders, as predators. The heavy cruiser Vengeance burned hard toward the edge of the system, its engines flaring with cold, white fury. Commander Sarah Kim stood rigid at the center of the bridge, eyes locked on the fleeing contact ahead. They're dumping mass to gain speed, her navigator reported. They're desperate. Good, Kim replied. It means they're afraid. The wounded bioship attempted one final evasive maneuver near the heliopause, dumping power into its spinal thrusters and tearing into the boundary where the sun's last influence surrendered to interstellar night. The Vengeance matched it. Human mass drivers spoke once. The alien ship's engines shattered. Boarding vessels launched. Inside the living corridors of the captured bioship, human soldiers moved with disciplined brutality. Alien defenders fought desperately, their weapons organic extensions of their bodies, firing living energy arcs that scorched bulkheads and flesh alike. They died anyway. Human armor was built to endure. Human tactics were built to kill. Commander Sarah Kim stepped through the final hatch into the bioship's central neural chamber. The air pulsed with heat and alien pheromones thick with terror. 3 surviving hegemony officers lay restrained in null-grav containment fields, their bioluminescent skin flickering in erratic patterns of distress. Secure all data cores, Kim ordered, and sedate them, carefully. We need their minds intact. The prisoners stared at her with naked horror. You hunt us, one of them gasped to the translator. You pursue even when victory is assured. Why? Kim did not answer. Humans hunted because letting enemies escape meant facing them again later. And later always cost more lives. On Luna, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the pursuit vectors extend far beyond the system boundary. They're not disengaging, Rodriguez said quietly. No, Sarah replied. They're finishing the job. Inside the captured bioship Gentle Current, Commander Alex Petro oversaw the first full autopsy of hegemony technology. Dr. Lisa Chen stood before a partially dissected alien control organ that still pulsed with faint bioluminescence. Thin neural filaments stretched from it like exposed nerves. It's not just a ship, she said. It's a living combat intelligence. Neural pain response, reflex adaptation, defensive aggression. Alex studied the slow, rhythmic contraction of the tissue. It feels pain, yes. He considered that for a moment, then tune our next-generation weapons to maximize it. Dr. Chen hesitated only a fraction of a second before nodding. It was not cruelty. It was deterrence. In the central chamber of the Hegemony Council, High Arbiter HFY watched the battle unfold through delayed quantum battlefield feeds. 12 ancient civilizations stood in absolute silence as live images showed hegemony bioships being pursued, dissected, and annihilated across the Sol system. Explain, HFY demanded, his silver-blue skin rippling with agitation. Explain how a primitive species shattered our outer fleets in hours. General Vashto, High Military Coordinator, struggled to meet his gaze. His scales had faded to a sickly white. They do not fight like us, High Arbiter, Vashto said. They do not withdraw after achieving local superiority. They pursue. They board. They capture. They learn. The image shifted to show human soldiers dragging still-living hegemony prisoners from a ruptured bioship. They turn every victory into a weapon against us. HFY's black eyes narrowed. That is not warfare. That is annihilation doctrine. Yes, High Arbiter. For the first time in 12 million years, the Hegemony Council felt fear. The bioship, Eternal Peace, tried to hide among the debris clouds of the asteroid belt. It failed. Captain Maria Volkov's fighters reached it first. Target attempting concealment behind mapped asteroid cluster, her sensor officer reported. Maria smiled behind her visor. That cluster isn't natural. She opened a channel. Romeo 7, she said calmly. Light it. The asteroid detonated from within. What had appeared to be inert rock unfolded into a point-blank weapons platform. Mass drivers fired simultaneously from concealed barrels, hammering the Eternal Peace at contact range. Organic shielding collapsed instantly under the storm of relativistic impacts. The alien ship screamed across open channels. They're everywhere. The transmission cut off as the bioship broke apart. Maria watched the debris scatter. They thought space itself would hide them, she said. This is our space. On the fleeing scout vessel, Inevitable Truth, Captain Thiexmal stood amid flickering emergency lighting. Our fleet is destroyed, his officer whispered. The survivors are being hunted one by one. Our reinforcements are days away. The X-Maul stared at the dark system behind them. They are not supposed to hunt, he said numbly. They are supposed to defend, to hide, to plead. The officer looked at him with hollow eyes. They are not hiding, Captain. The scout ship jumped into interstellar space moments before a human kill group arrived at its last position. For the first time in 12 million years, a hegemony vessel escaped a battlefield in retreat. Not because it had won, but because it was running. On Luna, the captured hegemony prisoners were brought into containment. One of them, a senior tactical node controller, finally broke under psychological pressure that dwarfed any physical interrogation. You do not understand what you have done, it said through ragged translation. You have shattered the myth. Without it, the Empire cannot hold. Sarah Chen stared at the being through containment glass. We didn't shatter it, she said softly. You did. By believing it made you gods. Dr. Okafor assembled the combined intelligence feed into a single, terrifying truth. They conquered through certainty, he told the High Command Council. They won because no one believed resistance was possible. The moment that belief collapsed, so did the Empire. Sarah Chen folded her hands behind her back. Then we don't stop, she said. We make sure the galaxy understands exactly what is possible now. Beyond human-controlled space, the Hegemony Council chambers erupted into chaos. We must deploy the planet killers, one arbiter hissed. They will bring total war to our home worlds. If we hesitate, they will come for us. HFY raised both limbs for silence. They have already come for us, he said. The last damaged bioship in the Sol system reached the heliopause, with human vessels closing in from all directions. Instead of destruction, the human commander issued one order. Disable. Board. Take everything. The Hegemony crew surrendered without resistance. For the first time in the recorded history of the galaxy, A hegemony warship laid down its weapons to a lesser species. Back on Earth, civilians watched controlled releases of sanitized combat footage. They saw alien ships break. They saw human vessels emerge from darkness. They heard the words spoken quietly in every language. They ran. Hope began to spread, not as celebration, but as disbelief struggling to become confidence. On the Hegemony Council's central display, SciFi watched as a feed from the captured Eternal Peace transmission played on loop. Human soldiers moving through living corridors, alien commanders restrained, technology stripped apart with machine efficiency. This species, SciFi said slowly, does not fight to survive. General Vashto swallowed. Then why do they fight? SciFi's voice was barely audible. They fight to dominate. In the quiet aftermath of the system-wide pursuit, Admiral Sarah Chen stood once more before the holographic map of Sol. Hegemony Red had almost completely vanished. Human Blue filled the void. They are sending reinforcements, Rodriguez reported. 3 full battle fleets, over 100 ships. Sarah's eyes did not waver. Good, she said. Now we teach the galaxy what it costs to threaten Earth. Far away, deep in captured hegemony space, human warships were already moving, not toward defense, toward invasion. The war did not spread outward from Earth. It exploded inward toward the heart of the hegemony. Human ships followed the captured navigation data like bloodhounds on a scent older than empires. Jump points once thought unassailable unfolded before vessels that had never existed on any alien chart. The first human task force crossed the interstellar boundary into hegemony-controlled space less than 3 days after the Battle of Sol. They did not announce their arrival. They erased it. The outer relay world Tarsus 9, a system devoted entirely to hegemony communications and traffic control, vanished in silence as human kinetic bombardment shredded its orbiting infrastructure in under 7 minutes. No planetary assault, no occupation, only targeted annihilation of relays, fuel depots, and data spires. When the hegemony fleet arrived to investigate, there was nothing left to defend, only wreckage, and a message burned into vacuum in encoded light. You are not invincible. From captured quantum arrays, Dr. James Okafor watched hegemony panic propagate across their own network. They've never had their supply lines attacked before, he said. They've never fought an enemy who refuses to hold territory. Admiral Sarah Chen studied the live tactical spread. Territory slows you down, she replied. Fear travels faster. Human strike groups did not target capitals. They targeted arteries. Fuel worlds burned. Manufacturing systems vanished. Communication nexuses collapsed into debris. The hegemony discovered what it meant to fight an enemy that did not seek victory through control, but through suffocation. On the client world of Cathmar, Zixi watched the sky change. For generations, hegemony patrol ships had floated above the planet like gods made of light and shadow. Their presence was law. Their silence was obedience enforced. Then, one night, strange new stars ignited in orbit. Blue-white flashes carved the darkness. 2 hegemony patrol ships were torn apart in full view of the planet's night hemisphere. Zixi clutched her sibling's hand as shock waves rippled faintly through the atmosphere. Are the stories true? She whispered to the elder beside her. About the Terrans? The old one stared upward, scales trembling with something forgotten. I once believed no empire could fall, the elder said. Tonight, I am no longer certain. Across the hegemony empire, rebellion ignited like buried tinder finding flame. The first uprising came from a world designated Client Sector 47B, a mining civilization enslaved for 3 centuries. Human operatives did not land troops. They seeded encrypted tactical data into civilian networks. How to sabotage, how to ambush, how to disrupt energy shields. Within 48 hours, the planet's hegemony garrison was blind, starving, and surrounded by civilians who had learned how to fight back. They surrendered. The news tore through subspace like lightning. On the Hegemony Council world, panic shattered centuries of order. 17 client systems have declared independence, a counselor shouted. Human strike groups are inside our territory. Our fleets are being hunted in their own space. High Arbiter Zephi stood at the center of the chamber as the empire he ruled began to fracture like crystal under hammer blows. They fight like ghosts, General Vashto said. They appear, sever the arteries, and vanish before we can retaliate. Zephi's black eyes narrowed. They are not ghosts, he said. They are the future of warfare. On the bridge of the human dreadnought, Indomitable, Admiral Sarah Chen observed hegemony space burn for the first time. The target was Depot 7, a station the size of a small moon that coordinated regional conquests. Human ships did not challenge its defenses directly. They destroyed the fuel moons that fed it. They crippled its supply convoys. They jammed its relay network. 6 hours later, starving of power, blind to support, and isolated from command, Depot 7 fell to a surgical kinetic strike that tore it apart from internal structural fault lines. Hegemony Depot 7 destroyed, Commander Alex Petro reported. Defense fleet neutralized. 3 additional bioships captured. Sarah nodded slowly. Strip the communication arrays, she said. The real war starts now. With captured hegemony quantum technology integrated into human networks, the galaxy itself began to listen. Human forces intercepted empire-wide transmissions. They injected false fleet movements. They broadcast footage of shattered hegemony ships, captured commanders, and liberated worlds. For the first time in 12 million years, the myth of hegemony invincibility died publicly. And myths, once dead, cannot be resurrected. The Liberation Alliance was born in secrecy. 17 species signed first, then 47, then over 100. They did not pledge loyalty to Earth. They pledged resistance to domination. Human advisors spread through their systems, not as rulers, but as instructors. How to evade, how to strike, how to vanish. Every liberated world became another blade in the dark. Captain Maria Volkov demonstrated the new doctrine at the hegemony fortress Sigma Draonis. The installation was shielded, layered, and defended by 3 full bioship wings. She ignored it completely. Instead, she destroyed its mining colonies, its fuel depots, its relay satellites, its reinforcement corridors. Within 6 hours, the fortress was blind, starving, and deaf. Maria opened a channel. This is Captain Volkov of the Terran Black Armada, she transmitted calmly. You have 1 hour to surrender before we turn your fortress into dust. The fortress surrendered in 11 minutes. It was the first hegemony military installation in recorded history to capitulate to an external enemy. The psychological shockwave crippled entire sectors. On Earth, civilians no longer watched victory with disbelief. They watched with grim understanding. The war was no longer defensive. Humanity was no longer reacting. Humanity was advancing. In the shadows of deep space, 3 full hegemony battle fleets finally mobilized towards Sol. Over 100 bioships, the largest mobilization in the Empire's history. They will try to burn Earth in retaliation, Rodriguez warned. Sarah Chen did not look at him. Let them try, she said. We aren't on Earth anymore. She was right. Human shipyards now operated inside captured hegemony systems. Hybrid vessels began to roll out of clandestine slip docks, ships that fused human kinetic brutality with alien biological resilience. Faster, stronger, deadlier. The Black Armada was no longer merely a fleet. It was an evolving organism. On a distant client world newly freed, Zixi watched human ships streak across the sky as hegemony forces fled their own orbit. They're leaving, her sibling whispered. They're running, Zixi corrected. On the hegemony council world, Zephi finally spoke the words no arbiter had ever voiced. We are losing this war. Silence devoured the chamber. They turned our strength into our weakness, he continued. Our scale, our certainty, our predictability. We taught the galaxy how to obey. He lifted his gaze. They have taught it how to resist. At the edge of hegemony core space, human strike groups waited for the next command. Admiral Sarah Chen studied the live rebellion map. Red, hegemony control, was collapsing into isolated islands. Yellow, active uprisings spread like wildfire. Blue, human operational zones expanded relentlessly. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "Prepare for phase final," she said. The Black Armada moved again, not as defenders, not as liberators, but as the storm that would end an empire. The end of the hegemony did not come as one great final battle. It came as a million simultaneous failures. Across the empire, rebellion detonated in waves that no central command could suppress. Client species that had bent the knee for generations rose together. Miners, engineers, farmers, soldiers pressed into alien wars they never believed in. Human tactics turned civilians into resistance cells overnight. Supply lines collapsed. Communications fell silent. Entire fleets vanished into ambush corridors they had never learned how to see. The hegemony empire, built on fear and inevitability, discovered what happened when inevitability died. High Arbiter HFY stood alone in the emergency chamber of the hegemony capital as report after report disintegrated into catastrophe. Sectors 7 through 12, lost. Depot networks 3 and 4, destroyed. Client species uprising count, 112 and rising. General Vashto's voice was barely steady. Human forces have destroyed our long-range communication lattice. We no longer have centralized command. HFY felt something ancient and unbearable tear through his mind. For 12 million years, the hegemony had never fought without certainty. Now certainty was gone. "They are a single species," one counselor whispered. "How is this possible?" HFY answered quietly, "Because they do not fight like empires. They fight like survivors." The final command to defend the capital came too late. By the time the remaining hegemony home fleets converged, human forces were already inside their defensive depth. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable as hegemony core space burned across the tactical display. Around her, human officers operated in disciplined silence. Commander Alex Petro, now her tactical coordinator, tracked the last coherent fleet movements. "They're trying to form a defensive shell around the capital," he said. "They won't make it in time." "They don't need to," Sarah replied. "The empire is already dead. They just don't know it yet." The final hegemony shipyards vanished in a storm of kinetic annihilation. The last reinforcement fleets were intercepted mid-jump and never re-emerged. The capital world of the hegemony, once guarded by thousands of living warships, found itself suddenly naked. High Arbiter HFY watched the planetary defense grid fail in perfect sequence. Energy shields collapsed as supply nodes went dark. Orbital weapons silenced as command relays vanished. The greatest military civilization in known history was being disassembled without spectacle. No glorious last stand, no heroic final charge, just quiet, systematic extinction of power. "They never came for our world directly," a counselor whispered in disbelief. HFY closed his eyes. "They never needed to." The last hegemony fleet did not reach Earth. It never even saw the Sol system. Human strike groups intercepted it deep in interstellar void. With no supply chain, no communication net, and no tactical leadership left alive, the fleet disintegrated into isolated ships. Some were destroyed. Some were captured. Some surrendered without firing a shot. The Empire had no reinforcements left. No myth left. No future left. 6 months after the ultimatum that was meant to end humanity, the final message reached Earth. It arrived not as a demand, but as a confession. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Luna Command when the transmission from the hegemony capital appeared on the main display. High Arbiter HFY stood inside what was unmistakably a prison chamber. No council, no banners, no authority left to stand behind him. "To the humans of Earth," HFY said, his voice stripped of command at last, "you have accomplished what 12 million years of history declared impossible." Sarah said nothing. "You have shattered the oldest empire in the galaxy. You have shown that fear is not eternal, that technology is not destiny, that even gods can bleed." His black eyes lowered. We surrender. Silence filled the command deck. Teach us, Zephi said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. Teach us how to be free. The transmission ended. On Earth, there was no celebration, no cheering crowds, no victory parades, only quiet, stunned understanding. Humanity had not merely survived. Humanity had rewritten the balance of the galaxy. The Liberation Alliance expanded faster than any empire ever had. 300 species applied for membership within a year. Not for protection, for instruction. Human tactical doctrine spread across alien worlds like wildfire. Distributed warfare, asymmetrical defense, decentralized command, psychological operations. Species that had never been allowed to fight learned how to vanish, how to strike, how to endure. The galaxy did not become peaceful. It became unstable because now everyone knew that giants could fall. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Sarah Chen studied the latest intelligence projection. Red, former hegemony control, was almost entirely gone. Blue, Alliance operational space, had replaced it. Yellow, unstable regions, spread like fault lines through history. We broke the largest empire the galaxy ever knew, Rodriguez said quietly. Sarah did not smile. We didn't break it, she replied. We proved it was breakable. That, she knew, was far more dangerous. Commander Alex Petro floated through the captured hegemony capital shipyards months later, watching hybrid warships take form. Human angular hulls, alien biological shielding, kinetic cannons mounted inside living armor. Faster, smarter, deadlier. Dr. Lisa Chen walked beside him. We've surpassed both their technology and ours, she said. There is nothing like these ships anywhere in the galaxy. Alex watched a battleship slide free from its construction lattice. That should terrify everyone, he said. On a liberated world once crushed beneath hegemony control, Zixai stood beneath a sky now empty of patrol ships. Human vessels passed overhead, but they did not linger. They're leaving, her sibling said. Zixai shook her head. They're watching. At the center of the new Alliance Council, humans did not sit on a throne. They stood beside every other species, not as rulers, not as saviors, as something far more unsettling. The ones who had proven that resistance worked. Admiral Sarah Chen returned once more to the observation deck of Luna Command. Earth still hung in space like a blue jewel, still fragile, still alive, but no longer alone. Behind her, the greatest fleet ever assembled by human hands, prepared for patrol across hundreds of systems, not for conquest, but for balance enforced by those who had learned war too well. Rodriguez stood beside her. Do you think the galaxy will ever trust us? He asked. Sarah considered the stars. No, she said, and they shouldn't. She turned away from the window. When the powerful demanded submission, she said quietly, some species knelt, some ran, some hid. Her voice hardened. We sent warships. Far across the galaxy, in a former hegemony prison world, now flying Alliance colors, High Arbiter Zephi watched human ships patrol the sky that once belonged only to his kind. For the first time in his long life, no one bowed when he passed. For the first time, no one feared him. And for the first time, he understood what humanity had truly taught the galaxy. That the most dangerous species is not the strongest. It is the one that refuses to kneel and learns how to make empires fall.